There's an old adage that goes, you always pay for your crime. In actuality, however, this is not always the case. Some criminals get away with their atrocities, whether owing to a corrupt legal system, security gaps, or simply a blank eye from the society. The failure to prosecute such criminals does irreversible harm to our social fabric as trust and togetherness among society cease to exist. We remember such criminals not to glorify them, but to emphasize the significance of a robust security system so that such events never occur again. Zodiac Killer. A very famous serial killer tops our list. From movies to books to conspiracy theories, the exploits of the Zodiac Killer have long been the talk of the town. And how could it not be? Not only did he commit a series of murders, but he also managed to successfully elude the police while ridiculing them through anonymous cryptic messages for more than 50 years. The police did round up many suspects over the years, but none of them were ever confirmed to be the killer. Whether he is dead, no one knows. But if he is alive, he is probably having the last laugh. He successfully cheated the system by committing heinous crimes while remaining completely undetected. Jimmy Saville. Jimmy Saville was one of the most celebrated TV personalities in the United Kingdom.
The big question I get asked is, when did it all start? And why?
People adored him everywhere he went. They considered him to be kind, funny, and very generous. But unbeknownst to them, Jimmy was far from good. Jimmy Saville was a sexual predator who abused hundreds of people in his lifetime, mostly children. He used his popularity, political power, and high social standing to conceal his wicked activities all his life. Some victims did try to call him out, but they were silenced. Some journalists did try to print his story, but their pages were ripped apart.
Line, basically.
Yes. Oh, aye. How do they know whether I am or not? How does anybody know whether I am? Nobody knows whether I am.
His influence was so ingrained in the system that it was only after his death that many people were able to tell his real story. But by then it was too late. He simply got away with it. Third, Plymouth mail truck robbery. This crime feels like it has been ripped right out of a Michael Mann heist movie. It was one of the largest heists in history at that time, with armed bandits posing as police officers stealing $1.5 million from a mail truck transporting the money to the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. When the robbery was reported, it sparked outrage across the United States. Police formed special teams and even offered $150,000 reward to anyone who provided information. But the robbers were too smart to leave any evidence because neither did the police receive any information nor were they able to locate any of the money. In a last-ditch effort to stop the clock on the crime, the police detained 5 suspects who they believed were engaged in the robbery. However, a day before the trial, one of the suspects went suspiciously missing and the case conveniently collapsed. No one was arrested. It still remains one of the biggest unsolved robberies in the history. Fourth, Albert Heim, a.k.a. Dr. Death. Albert Heim was one of the most notorious and horrific Nazi doctors to ever exist. He used to perform various unethical and lethal operations and experiments on Jewish prisoners, killing hundreds of them in the process. He was also a psychopath who used to take the victims' body parts and create different accessories from them, such as seat cushions and paperweights. He reigned his terror for many years, across various concentration camps, and it wasn't until the war finished that he really truly stopped. Albert Heim was arrested as soon as the Nazi regime fell, but he was never prosecuted for his crimes. It was only later, when people realized the gravitas of his crime, that new arrest warrants were issued in his name. But by that time, he had already escaped to Cairo, Egypt, and was living under a false identity. Government officials from various countries led an international manhunt to find him, but they were unsuccessful. He stayed in Cairo for the rest of his life, dying of cancer in 1992, a much easier death compared to what he had given others. Idi Amin. In our last entry, we have to add a world leader because often or not, they are the most susceptible to committing a crime when their powers are left unchecked. You only need to look at the history to see that they were correct. And the worst part is, they seldom get arrested. Just take the example of Uganda's former president, Idi Amin. He ruled the country from 1971 to 1979 and was responsible for some of the country's most heinous atrocities. He murdered over 500,000 people, attempted to remove thousands of Asians and Europeans living in the country, mishandled the country's economy, supported massive corruption, and used unrelenting brutality to subdue his opponents and rule the country. He was essentially a vicious psychopath endowed with enormous power. He lost his power when some of his colleagues and followers conspired against him, leading to a civil war in the country. In the end, a politically weakened Idi Amin fled the country and sought refuge in Saudi Arabia. He remained there in the country till he died, leaving us to add one more name of a world leader who was never prosecuted for his crimes. If you liked our video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.